It's a rare condition on Boob2 Boys, this here podcast, that we get to talk about family matters. It's only happened one time out of our years of doing the podcast. It's about to happen a second time. I'm Brian Vaughn. I'm joined by Spencer Hendricks.
Hello, I'm Spencer Hendricks.
I'm joined also by Van Lee.
The rare condition? Polio.
It's especially rare now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't see it that often.
But it did come back. You know why? Anti-vaxxers.
Sure.
Well, they've made a lot of things go wrong, haven't they?
Not Family Matters. They didn't ruin that.
They
Urkel
can't
did that.
retroactively do that, no. Family Matters remains pure.
Carl, don't you know that those vaccines cause autism?
Oh no, Urkel, you too!
Steve, get the hell out of my house.
I like that at least you made Reginald Johnson
The reasonable one.
against
Of course.
that. Yes, good job.
I wasn't making him the villain.
No, I wouldn't. I would have been like, that's not possible.
You think he's ever played a villain?
I don't know.
I
I
think
bet he tried it and it failed
couldn't pull it off.
spectacularly.
I just thought of something I want to see now.
Ooh,
I
better
wanna-
than Alan Thicke and him being a gay couple?
Well, yeah, I want new Die Hard could be tough with Bruce Willis in his current situation, which is very sad. But I would like to see a twist at the end of Die Hard where he's actually a bad guy. You think he's
Ooh.
helping the hero, but he's actually the bad guy the whole time.
Serving him up on a platter to the all-too-dead Alan Rickman.
Everyone's dead in that movie.
Yeah,
Well,
well, that's kind of the sad thing about some of the things we remember from our youth. Being so old, those people are dying.
Yep, not Reginald Johnson.
No, going strong.
I'll bet the grandma's dead, though.
Mother Winslow.
It's a real bummer. I don't know why I said that, but
He did. Way to bring it down, man.
here
You
we
almost
are.
said it like, but you know what? Who's not alive?
Let me correct you, Spencer.
Mother Winslow, who we do get to actually see in action.
Hell yeah, and she's good.
Yeah, we're talking about Season 4, Episode 21 of Family Matters, Walk on the Wild Side from 1993.
Do you have a number? How many episodes they did? 9 seasons.
Yeah, 200 and something, like 220 maybe.
Okay. Yeah,
It's somewhere in that ballpark.
great.
We've done
Yeah.
like a surprising amount of shows that go into the 200s, actually.
Yeah, we have. And this one, after we get done talking
Bones.
about Family Matters, we're going to have Spencer introduce our next show, but we're also going to... Drum roll, yeah. It's the second installment of the Boob2 Boys Hall of Fame.
That's right. It's been about a year since we last did this. We had our initial inductees,
Yes.
which were Gior,
Yeah. Gior
Ar,
and Birdman.
and Birdman.
Boo.
Three spectacular heroes.
2 spectacular heroes in Birdman.
We'll have 3 more. We'll have 4 more, actually, at the end of this episode.
We'll talk more about that later, but it's a very exciting time. You guys are going to stick around for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be ridiculous because we're going to be making cases for silly characters from silly TV shows we've covered to be immortalized on our podcast.
Maybe in 1 year from now, we'll be inducting Reginald Johnson as Carl Winslow.
I mean,
into the
if
Hall
there's
of Fame.
ever been such a lock, I'm not sure of it. I mean, he's so delightful.
I guess technically it was eligible for you
Yes.
after the end of this episode.
True,
Now,
yeah.
we'll find out if he did it or not.
We'll see. We'll have to find out.
Or if he picked Urkel.
We don't know. I
That's
could have
not-
picked Mother
That's
Winslow.
not good. Well, I might. I'd consider it for her.
Could have picked Richie.
Mother Winslow, we talked only about her reading Rolling Stone last week, but she is Rosetta Lenore, who was a New York theater actor who did plenty of work in her community, also striving for racial equality in her career. So way to go, Rosetta. She was also legitimately 87 years old when the show ended.
Really? Wow.
You know, she has fun with the role.
Dead now.
She's a bad girl grandma.
The character of Estelle is basically the subversion old person,
Yeah.
and it works for me.
She's like
It did it.
Grandpa Jetson in our Jetsons episode, only cool.
Only interesting at all.
Yeah, she never once says that. She says, let's see some dudes naked, but we'll get into that.
She doesn't befriend a cop
No.
in space.
Well, Carl,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they're not in space.
Not
and
yet.
he's her son.
That's season 10. It just never happened.
That could be a whole plot line because Steve is always, he could invent something that takes him to space. And then,
Yeah.
of course, Carl will be like, Steve, get us out of this other planet that we're in
It's
now.
too boring up here.
Even with less gravity, I still hate you.
As he's kind of floating a little when he says that.
And some cheese, and he floats off.
All right. I think we've got enough for an episode there.
Urkel in space. A couple other series regulars, side characters. Maxine, who's Laura's best friend, played by Cherie Johnson, who is also a Punky Brewster regular cast member.
That's a show.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about it, but it was on a long time.
I saw a little bit of that show as a kid, and that and Blossom. I watched
I
a little
watched
bit
a
of
lot
that.
with Joey Lawrence. Whoa! Did you know there's a show called Joey and Melissa with Joey and
that
Melissa
was like,
Joan Hart?
that didn't work, right? It was just immediately canceled.
You got a couple years.
One of those things where like, well, let's spin it off and see what happens.
Speaking of Joey and Melissa, like Joey, the Friends spinoff.
Yeah.
Yep.
With Joey and Melissa, it was literally, let's take two very unlikable people and make a show about them. And it didn't work. Who knew? Who knew?
You wouldn't guess it, would you?
Star of God's Not Dead 2, Melissa Joan Hart.
Without further ado, I think I should mention that we're going to talk about an episode now where Laura and her friends try to get into a strip club, but everyone's there. Before we do that, let's take a look at scenic Chicago and hear a saxophone, because Family Matters is starting, and that's how it always starts. We don't start in Rachel's place this time. We're in the Winslow house, and Harriet is...
Which, by the way, they also have a rotating CGI sign outside of.
It says Winslow House. Harriet's helping Laura prepare because she's about to go on a cheerleading team trip to Minnesota, which she needs 47 different giant luggage bags for.
Massive, like human-sized
Like those
luggage
hard
bags.
shell ones.
Yeah,
Maybe like one Urkel big.
sure.
I don't know why you would say that.
I don't know. That was certainly on no one's mind.
The Winslows are worried. This is a big trip for Laura, and she's still in high school. It's dangerous. Richie runs down the stairs, little cousin Richie, and he says, Laura, you forgot your pom-poms. Seems like she would have remembered that for a cheerleading trip, right? That's funny. Carl wonders, why isn't Steve here? Steve's always here. I mean, always, and you'd think he'd be sending Laura off. But he is. He, as you guys alluded to, he's inside Laura's luggage. They open it up, there he is. Well, that sucks. You know what they should do? They should mail him to Abu Dhabi like a total normal.
Yeah,
Get his
they should
ass
do
out
that.
of there. And now we go ahead and hit the theme song. It's the intro credits. And we've got new footage here, unfortunately, without the Carl Sweater book thing. So thumbs down.
And no Rolling Stone for Estelle.
Yeah, I don't think there's an ape either.
But by the way, they mention in this cold open, which is a real cold open. It has nothing to do with the
anything.
plot. That's the true definition of it, not our normal definition of it.
Sure.
But they mentioned Bemidji as being where the cheerleader
It's a
thing
town
is.
in Minnesota.
And I looked it up. Yeah, it's a
Mentioned in Fargo also.
Bemidji, Minnesota. I'd never heard of this. I did look it up, and therefore I found the town's website, on which you can see that they have this to say: Bemidji is a historically charming, progressive, and beautiful Northwoods city to visit, and is home to 12,073 persons.
Yeah.
That's
It's good.
some
Bemidji.
people.
It's like some of the surrounding small towns.
I wish they would have said souls. I always like that.
Well, I did a little more digging on Bemidji because that's who I am. And I found their most recent town newsletter, which is apparently a thing, where you can see that they've installed solar panels on the City Hall building for a total sum of $77,851. And according to this will lower the city's grid dependence by 28%.
Way to go,
They're
Bemidji.
gonna get that 77,000 back no time at all.
That's right. Solar's the way to go. Jamie Anderson was recognized by the Minnesota Recreation and Park Association with the 2023 Presidential Reward. She received a plaque for her services.
Good for her.
Congratulations, Jamie Anderson. And then we already missed this at the time of recording, but on 6 p.m. March 8th at the Carnegie Library, they held the Extreme Puzzle Palooza, where teams of 2 to 4 people would race against each other to see who could complete the puzzle the fastest within the 2-hour time mark. The cost was $25 per team, and you were able to choose between Advanced, which had 500-piece puzzles, or Extreme, which had 750-piece puzzles. And I'd like to note that snacks were provided.
That sounds nice. I bet the money went toward a good cause.
Yeah,
Maybe
of
the
course.
solar panels.
Well, we also missed on March 29th and 30th the fact that you can get your picture taken with the Easter Bunny. It's $10 for 3 pictures, and the event's called the Bunny Bash.
I don't care about that. We could do that here, I bet.
They have different bunnies in Minnesota, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
they're colder bunnies.
Big bunnies.
They get bigger in the cold.
And then finally, there's the Early Birds Birding Program, May 8th and 11th. That's coming up,
Oh,
guys.
we can still get to that.
8 a.m. Binoculars and birding guides are provided, so you don't have to bring your birding guide with you.
Well, I wouldn't want to drive my birding guide all the way up to Minnesota.
No, not to Bemidji.
Yeah, I love this. This sounds like just a really peaceful little town that I'd love to be a part of.
So relocate the podcast.
We'd like to make it 12,076 persons. Souls.
Souls, lost souls.
That's if it's a necromancy town.
Well, that is even more of a draw for us, I guess.
You can't pull that necromancy town like those country music
Yeah.
songs that are in a small town. We love white people.
You come up and knock on my door to say hi, you just try that shit in a small town, I'll blow you away. What is your song saying, sir? I don't
we
like
hate
it.
everyone.
Bemidji, smaller town than Chicago. But back in Chicago, in the Winslow house, to be more specific, Carl is reading the paper at the kitchen table like a good, pleasant Carl should. when Harriet and Eddie walk in with the groceries. Carl says, "Hey, Eddie, why don't you sit down? I'm going to give you a haircut to save some cash." And he's given his sales pitch for that, but Eddie does not want that, and I think has a justifiable response.
Oh, no. I know that I may botch the first 3 or 4 haircuts. But hey, I'll learn. And over the years, think of the savings. No, stop it. He's trying to hurt my hair.
It made me laugh, too.
Hurt my hair.
Hurt my
Pretty
hair.
good.
Carl then offers to shave a cool smiley face into Eddie's hair. That was funny, too, and cute. I love Carl.
Did you hear the mom's first words when she entered the scene?
Uh-uh.
She came in and she goes, "Hi, babe."
Oh, like a real Tommy Wiseau.
I waited for her to be like, "I have something for you."
Followed by graphic sex scene with Denny watching.
It'd be hotter in this than it would be in the room.
Yeah, it would. Eddie doesn't like this, obviously, and Harriet actually sticks up for him and says Eddie has other things to do. He needs to clean his room and take out the trash. Eddie says, yeah, I do, and runs off. This was one of those parental ploys just to get Eddie to do his job.
And it worked.
Yep.
Carl's a genius.
Well, we knew that.
I like how he uses the clippers as a threat, an attack, and it comes back again later where he turns it on and it's meant menacingly.
And it's good, the sound of it, the buzz, and the
and his
physicality
face,
of
his
it.
gleeful face as he turns it on.
How long is that cord, though?
Yeah.
Like, he's ripping that thing all around the room.
He bought the long one. Cordless things might not have existed yet, I'm not sure.
Now with 60-foot cord. Wait, how many Urkels is that?
It's like 5. I don't know.
He is pretty gangly. He's short up until about season 4.
And he hits that growth spurt.
Then his fingers are huge. If you see it, like his hand is so big.
All the better to hold more cheese with.
The better to hold more Laura with.
Oh, that's what he wants, not what she wants. Laura, meanwhile, is talking to Maxine, her best friend, and another cheerleader about going to Club Buff. The other cheerleader says, "I went there with my friend Janet last weekend to see some studs dancing around. It's the best. You guys, for $50, I can get you fake IDs and we can all go this weekend." Maxine says, "I don't know." And then this cheerleader says, "Well, there's near naked hunks." Maxine then says, "I am in.
Convinces
There's
her.
no stopping me from going." But Laura still doesn't want to risk it, and her friends start giving her shit for being a goody two-shoes.
She's being a real Brian Vaughn here.
Yep, and I was like, you guys quit picking on Laura. She'll go when she's older, when she's ready to handle it. Laura probably has books to read.
Probably Jurassic Park.
Yeah, again. Laura ultimately is talked into going to Club Buff after finding out that the only person who thinks she's daring and awesome is Steve Urkel, which would probably make me go to Club Buff, too. You never know. In the kitchen, Harriet and Carl, they're of course talking about how Laura is their best kid and the one who would never do anything wrong. And this reminded me of the Matthew Perry episode of Growing Pains quite a bit. And how that plays out, how
Sour balls.
the daughter, yes, the daughter is thought to be perfect and incapable of doing anything wrong. And there are some similarities in how these things play out, I think. The Winslow parents decide to reward Laura for how awesome she is out of the blue, right as she's planning to do something devious. Which to Carl means first crack at the pork chops, but Harriet suggests, more appropriately, how about I take our daughter to the mall and she can get some new clothes and have lunch? Carl says, I guess that's fine, but how would we make up for the money? And then he turns the clippers back on and goes after Harriet.
Which I love.
Comedically, they're both laughing about it.
And she runs screaming out of the room. It's delightful.
It's a perfect callback. And again, he just looks so happy when he turns those clippers on.
It's because they have a good marriage. It's because he's a good
You
guy.
can threaten your wife with clippers when you have a good marriage. But
That's right. If it's a bad marriage,
Ooh, no,
please
that's
don't
no
threaten
good.
your wife with clippers.
Eddie and Waldo want to go out tonight too, but they're not going to Club Buff. They're wanting to pick up some women. We find out that Waldo has a pine tree car air freshener around his neck.
Not a bad idea.
That's kind of fun.
And by the way, they are full-blown in the 1990s as far as the dress goes.
I thought it looked
Yeah.
pretty cool.
We was impressive.
Big
well,
boxy neon clothes.
like if we wore these clothes,
No,
it would not be
could
cool.
not pull
These
that
two
off.
can get away with it. Eddie's got a red suit with a Hawaiian shirt on underneath the sport coat. Waldo has a mustard yellow sport coat with green pants and a pinstripe yellow and red vest under his coat. It's like, the only thing I can think of was the MC Hammer music videos where he'd wear the big boxy clothes.
very much of that era.
It's delightful.
Urkel barges in wearing something no less unreasonable, which is his lab getup. And he tells him what he's been doing.
Hey, Steve. What's up?
Well, I'm taking a 5 for my lab. I'm working on a new invention.
Oh, really? Well, what is it?
It's a combination nose hair trimmer and flashlight. I mean, let's be honest, there's a lot up there we'd like to see.
That's pretty funny, too, to me. I don't know. Because there isn't.
No, and you don't really need to see up there. And by the way, I did this once. I have a little nose hair, ear hair trimmer. I have to do the ear hair because
Did you get the Urkel brand?
I'm an old man and I grow a lot of ear hair. No. But I did do the nose at one point, and I couldn't breathe for 2 weeks because like shit gets in there.
Oh,
you don't
makes
think of how
sense.
much your nose hair stops, but it did. So
Good to know. That
I don't do that anymore.
I won't talk down to them anymore, my nose hairs, now that I know they're fulfilling a valuable role in my face.
You're usually there in the mirror like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, you guys are sneaking out of there. I see ya.
What are you doing blocking my sniffer?
You trying to get out? You trying to escape?
I do have to pull the ones out
Yeah.
every now and then. They get real gnarly
I've had
and
some
long.
do. It kind of hurts. That makes my eyes water when I pull them out.
You get a one that's on the nerve, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's always satisfying to get a real big one out.
Well, yeah, and then sometimes
great.
it makes you sneeze, which is I love sneezing, so that's like a 2-in-1 benefit there.
You know, it's the closest thing to an orgasm you get. Actually, that's been disproved.
I absolutely
Does
believe
feel
it
good, though.
Yeah,
I like sneezing.
it's a very pleasant thing, and it does kind of seize your whole body for that moment.
Speaking of orgasms, Eddie and Waldo do a little horrible misogyny routine here about how ugly and hot girls are, and I don't even want to really talk about it.
Yep.
Laura and Maxine come down the stairs. Steve's tongue rolls out like he's a hound dog in a Hanna-Barbera cartoon because Laura's wearing like a really tight dress.
It's fucking velvet and disgusting.
He can't get over it and starts saying, "But Laura," and then names her different body parts. Once he's passed out and revived again, the cheerleader friends show up and they tell Steve, "We're going to Club Buff," and Steve does not think this is a good idea. This is breaking a rule. And there are other hunks there. Steve wants to be the hunk Laura seeks.
He's like, you're doing something gross right after saying the word bazooms.
Which is about as gross a thing as you could do.
Mm-hmm.
What's the worst word for breasts?
I really don't like titties. I just don't like it as a word. It just doesn't. I love titties.
But
I
the
just don't like
thing,
the
I know
word.
what you mean. But I find like anything that makes anything too cutesy just comes across more pervy in a weird way, which there's even a Patton Oswalt bit on this from years ago. But like, you know, when you try to cutes up a body part, it makes you sound like you're almost afraid of it.
Yeah, yeah. I like knockers. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. But like when Steve says bazooms, it makes me think he's afraid of
Especially
women.
since we're talking about Laura, it's very awkward and unpleasant, this whole scene is.
How do you feel about chesticles?
That's horrible.
That's a bad one.
It's right up there on the shit list.
I can't really think of any other boob slang words. That's tough. Jugs?
Yeah.
There you go.
That's even the magazine.
Melons.
Yeah, it's pretty hot. Melons is good too. Yeah, I like myself a nice, I can't think of a melon.
You know, who are you,
Water.
Gallagher?
Yeah.
No,
Cantaloupe.
he's more of a melon smasher than a melon appreciator.
Yeah, he really doesn't like melons.
As we somehow have talked about before.
Quite a few times, I feel like.
Not only that, we've talked about Gallagher too more than once.
Recently.
Yeah,
It was like
not
2
that
episodes
long
ago. He has other comedy guys. He doesn't just smash melons.
I write material too. I don't just smash it.
It's too bad it's all racist and horrible.
Yeah. No, just go back to smashing the melons. That is somehow like better observed and brighter.
I may have told this story, but I vividly remember being a kid and watching on Comedy Central a Gallagher stand-up special where he's got a boat and that song that "Don't You Wanna Take Me on a Sea Cruise?"
Yeah.
Ooh-wee, that was playing. And I looked this up recently on Tubi because they had all the Gallagher shit on there. And it is the most heinous shit you've ever heard in your life. Gallagher is atrocious.
You know what?
I didn't even get to the melons.
Doesn't surprise me. He seems like the worst guy.
Yeah, he's dead now. I'm pretty sure.
Probably.
Should be.
If he's not, he will be. Time comes for us all.
If he is not dead and the grandmother from this show is, this is not a just world.
You just said time comes for us all. What if he was the one who just didn't?
He
Gallagher is
broke the
immortal.
trend.
Him
He's like the
specifically.
Highlander.
Gallagher.
There can be only one. Unless Gallagher, too, during a show, it has to be a show, places Gallagher's head on the table and smashes it into the audience, and then he becomes Gallagher.
He takes his essence and his power. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of chopping off the head like Highlander, you smash it with a
Right.
a
That
mallet.
sounds really horrifying too, to see like
Good,
that being
good.
a skull instead of a melon.
Brain
Yeah,
and everything.
just
Ugh.
all over the audience.
You know, I'd watch it if it was Gallagher, but I really don't care to watch that stuff.
Nope, gross. Steve's not able to convince these three girls that they shouldn't go to Club Buff. They walk physically over him.
Move it or lose it.
At Club Buff, the girls arrive and they're seated by a man who I think is dressed like adult Bam Bam.
Yeah.
You know, he's got like a collar with a bow tie, but no shirt, and
Mm-hmm.
and a suit jacket, but no shirt underneath.
He's got kind of a Dolph Lundgren in Rocky meets Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell look.
A pretty good comparison.
Yeah. Buff boy.
Yeah.
So he's kind of suited to the job here at Club Buff.
Well, the girls are thirsty, though. What would you like to order if you're a girl at a strip club? Is it fucking orange juice?
I don't want to order that anywhere.
That's disgusting.
You don't order that at night at a place?
I guess they might have some because of like making cocktails, like Screwdriver or something.
Well,
but why would
they probably have like an orange juice show, or the hunks all get orange juice poured over them?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that'd be real sticky.
Couple gallons.
I really felt like that was, they've already fooled them into letting them in. Their fake IDs have worked. He makes the comment like, you don't look 28. Sorry for giving you such a hard time.
Yeah.
And then they immediately, in my opinion, they give themselves away horribly by ordering orange juice.
And by like over explaining, Laura's talking about her recent divorce.
Yeah.
That's not even necessary. He just calls her Miss, and she's like, "No, I'm a Mrs."
I'm 28. I was divorced. A stripper cop comes in, and at first the girls think this is a real cop and they're busted. But nope, this is Officer Bob, an officer whose sole job is to reveal his nightstick to the
be
patrons.
sexy.
Officer Bob, though, is the worst name for a stripper cop. You've got Officer Throb right there for the taking.
Oh, that's a really
Maybe that's
good.
his last name,
That's a really
Bob Throb.
Okay.
police nudity.
I'm a little on it, but they should call him Officer Throb or something like, I don't know, like Lieutenant Thickrod. Like, that's a good male stripper name.
Dirty Harry.
Okay, I can get behind Dirty. What about Captain Penis?
Okay, now we're talking.
So this is a thing that I like
Officer
to believe.
Orifice.
Oh, there you go. I like to believe that this was a placeholder in the script when they wrote it. And they're like, we'll come up with a better
They
one later.
forgot.
And then
Never
just did.
replace it.
This is Officer Bob.
We only have a couple hours to shoot this.
I love placeholders that don't get caught.
It is very
I've
fun.
done one in my high school journalism career.
What was it?
Well,
It's the best thing ever.
I was writing a placeholder story, and I knew that the swimmer had placed first in a particular type of swim,
Mhm.
and I didn't know what it was off the top of my head, so I just made something like the 500-mile free swim. And then, because it is such an incredible
Yeah.
distance to swim, I said, comma, where most swimmers end up floating on their face. Whole thing got left in the
Yep,
paper.
it was
published?
in there, yeah.
That's good. Did anybody call it out?
Yes.
After the fact.
Yeah, it was already published, and that was actually the last article I wrote in my senior
You
year.
were
So that was
fired.
my goodbye present to
That's
the
good.
school.
Your crowning achievement.
Yeah, and
I'd say.
and the journalism teacher was legitimately mad. She was
Oh,
like,
really?
she was like, "Great, this is already in the paper. Good job."
You've
there."
ruined journalism in
You
high
ruined
school.
the Kickapoo Prairie News.
Yeah, so placeholders. I'm hoping Officer Bob fit in that category.
Family Matters.
Family Matters is the show. Officer Bob starts getting nude, starts undressing to massive applause over an early 90s, like, pre-programmed keyboard Casio track with, like, that talk hop kind of style of, like, the Urkel rap. It's a lot like that. Van, play 10 seconds of that.
Now point your fingers up to the sky and talk through your nose way up high. Spin and dip and jump and cavort and finish it off with a laugh and snort.
See, it kind of sounds like this.
Now just imagine a big buff cop named Officer Thickrod.
You just got everyone real horned up.
Yeah.
Well, he rips open his shirt and reveals his chest.
Yeah.
And I will say, I have to give a little bit of credit to Family Matters because this is the early 90s. I feel like already people were afraid of body hair.
Not quite yet.
He
As
had
much.
chest hair.
He did.
It wasn't until like 2019 that body hair became somewhat acceptable again. So I was surprised to see a big bushy chest.
Look good on him. Makes sense.
Yeah,
you know?
I
He's
thought
a
he made it
broad
work.
man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as he's ripping his shirt in half like a real Hulk Hogan, we go to commercial. When we come back, we're not at Club Buff anymore. We're at the Winslow house.
We're at the real club buff.
Yeah, with Carl. Carl's just hanging out when Steve pops in and says, "What's up, Carl?" That's basically how he says Carl. It's like 4 syllables. Carl says, "I've been eating ribs." And Steve says, "Carl, you probably ruined the whole restaurant, you fat slob." Essentially,
You know what, though? I bet Carl/Reginald Lavelle Johnson.
he can house some ribs.
He is the enemy of the all-you-can-eat buffet. I do think so.
I do agree with Steve, but again, Steve's very rude.
And the all-you-can-eat buffet, seeing him come in would be like grateful that he would eat their food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, if he keeps coming back, it must be good.
That's the kind of thing, too. Normally, I would probably be annoyed by somebody who was really determined to squeeze out every last bite from the all-you-can-eat, because that's not really how I think of it. But someone like him doing that, it's like, yeah, you get it.
I get
Get
yep.
after that buffet.
Have at it, buddy. I'm going to watch. I'm going to see how far you go.
I'd love to watch Reginald VelJohnson eat a meal.
Look at him down those shrimp. He doesn't even take the tail off. He just in a hole.
His digestion's probably terrible.
Smiling with his mustache the whole time.
Oh, man, after Steve has roasted Carl, he snorts and sprays his soda can everywhere. Carl's very mad and tells him to leave. Eventually, though, it all calms down, and Carl reveals to Steve that Rachel, Harriet, and Mother Winslow, they've gone to Club Buff tonight. Carl says, well, Steve, I was insecure at first, but then I realized, well, Harriet's got a real Club Buff at home. It's me, Carl Winslow. She just wants to go look at some guys, mainly because Rachel wants her to go. But while he's saying this, Steve escapes because he knows he needs to go warn Laura to keep her out of trouble.
Which I guess is born out of the right instincts in this case for Steve. Like he's trying to keep Laura from being in trouble.
And then he does some creepy moralizing.
Sure. And I think it's a little more I need to be the hero than I need to help her.
Okay. I was thinking maybe one time Steve did a nice thing. That's how I viewed that.
I think it's kind of hard to tell with Steve because, like, everything he does is quote unquote for Laura, but that's through him, through what he wants.
He's getting something out of it.
He's getting something out of it, which is
I assume at the end, like, she is with Steve.
I think so.
And I'm not kidding, I believe it basically her ultimate choice is between Steve and Stefan, and she chooses Steve.
That's right, yeah. And finally, Steve gets a hold of those bazooms.
Not a happy ending as far as I'm concerned. Back at Club Buff, there's a Viking stripper who has taken off his helmet and has given it to a rabid Maxine, who wants all of these men and now.
And then Laura's just being a wet blanket with the whole thing. But my question to you is, all right, we got a cop stripper. We got a Viking stripper. If you were a male stripper, what would your thing be? What would your gimmick be, guys? Like, what profession would you want to have? I was thinking like sea captain. I could do that. Oh,
sure. Yeah, like a pirate sort of thing.
Yeah, eye patch maybe.
Sure.
Couple peg legs.
It'd be really hot.
I think I'd be like a dirty Columbo. Like I wear a trench coat, and then it's pretty easy. You just have to flash it.
Just nothing under the coat.
No, but you wear just boxers for a while. Before you take those off, you say, just one more thing.
Oh, ooh, this is good. I like this.
Yeah, that's nice. I'd probably have to go with like a wildlife sort of thing.
Like a bird or something.
Well, maybe somebody
forest ranger.
Closer. But I was thinking more like Tarzan. Maybe someone who can kind of like actually exist out in the wild.
Sure.
And is just a real primal and can't fully be contained. But maybe just for the exhibition style setting, you can put him out there for that.
But how contained can he be on stage? We don't know.
Yeah, well, you don't want to be too contained once you get on stage. You got to let some of that primal beast out.
Plus, you've got a friend who is an ape whose name is Ape. That's a real Tarzan thing.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got a friend is an ape.
Tarzan wasn't big on names.
They do like to just get boy and ape.
What about like a bug, like a big bug costume?
Yeah, you take
you're a
off
stripper bug.
one leg.
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
That sounds like Brian's worst nightmare for a male strip.
A bug's fine. I don't want a spider.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Most bugs, just not that one.
Don't be stupid, Spencer.
No, I want a good bug up there.
A big, good bug.
Like a mantis.
Ooh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
And then like you could bite the head off something at the end.
That's the grand finale. Yeah. Call someone up on stage, bite their head off.
Or wasp or something. You got, look at my stinger. Huh? Is it penis?
I do like too that just I want a good bug up there.
Not a bad bug.
I don't want
like
a run-of-the-mill shitty garden variety bug. I want an exotic bug.
Yeah, you give me a pill bug, fuck that. I want a weevil. Weevil or bust.
At least a ladybug. Give me some color. Right after the Viking guy's done, Laura goes to the bathroom, which is good, because she narrowly misses the whole rest of her family walking in, or at least the women, Harriet, Rachel, and Estelle.
Why does Aunt Rachel have M. Bison's hat on, is what I want to know.
That's awesome. That it does look like
it has like a star on it.
I guess she probably defeated M. Bison and got that in battle.
Maybe it was Raul Julia. He played M. Bison.
He did.
And he was dying during it,
That was like his last role, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly, what a strange way to cap off that career.
Good actor, but
no,
M.
interesting
Bison.
choice, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He did. You know why he did it? He did it because his kids wanted him to.
Yeah,
literally.
That's fine. That makes sense.
Because they liked the game.
The women are being a bit of a downer, kind of sticks in the mud about being in Club Buff, and Estelle keeps saying, guys, quit it. And finally, she vouches for Club Buff.
Don't be such a stick in the mud.
Yeah, get with it, sugar. This place is a blast. So you've been here before? Once or twice.
Hi, Estelle.
Oh, hello there. How are the kids?
Oh, just great. Would you like the usual table?
That'll be just fine.
Not only is she there all the time, she knows them on a personal level.
This shit works for me, man.
Yeah.
I love this.
It's still fun.
Yeah.
The enthusiasm.
Get with it, sugar.
Only barely hiding it from, from Harriet and Rachel. Steve arrives at the club now, too. The whole cast is basically here. He's in his lab coat still and is rebuffed by the bouncer at first. He eventually starts talking shit to a much larger man for our second consecutive episode and gets thrown outside loudly to applause. I agree, that is applause-worthy. Get him out.
It was the stand-in for America at that moment.
Throw out Urkel.
Everyone loved watching this wide-faced, fish-mouthed bouncer fling him outside. He's a hero.
Steve does sneak back in, though. But he gets caught again by the Bam Bam guy, and he says, look, I'm from the temp agency. I am a stripper. I'm Steve, the sensuous scientist, replacing Pete, the passionate plumber. And honestly, okay. That checks, like, he's dressed in a lab coat. Steve, the sensuous scientist, pretty good name.
And there are women out there who prefer real skinny little guys, so sure.
All types, right?
Yeah.
There's somebody out there for everyone, and I guarantee you there's a woman in the audience who wants to see those suspender straps come down.
That's why when we have a, sea captain pirate stripper, he has 2 peg legs, that's acceptable. Yeah. Somebody's into that.
Somebody wants to see that. Someone wants a blunt, and there are foot fetishists out there. Some of them don't want any feet.
Anti-feet fetishists.
Yeah, get them out of here, no feet. When Bam Bam questions Steve and says, you don't look like a stripper necessarily, Steve does the whole, it's how you use it thing. Bam Bam relents and says, well, we do need somebody to get up there, so why don't you just get up there, right now? Steve awkwardly gets on stage, and then, after being introduced, he stops the DJ from playing music and begins to address the crowd, saying, look, you women out there, you're using men as objects.
Here we go.
Doing one of his awful moralistic speeches, the kinds of things I hate happening in sitcoms like he's Kirk Cameron, but a woman does say, shut up, take it off, shake your booty,
and she was right
up to do it. And everybody starts to cheer, which is pretty funny.
Steve and Laura really are perfect for each other because they both just suck.
Uptight.
She's being a real bummer about being here. Steve's being a real bummer about everybody else being here.
Laura is starting to get into it, though, until all this happens. We needed to give her more time, but Steve on stage tells what he's presenting as a hypothetical story, saying, what if your mother and aunt and grandma were here? Laura gets what he's trying to do and hides under the table and tries to scoot out the door under the table to avoid detection. Does not work. Harriet blocks the table once she also is able to figure out the speech being given by her neighbor. She also knows Steve.
And that's pretty much it. The scene ends there. And I'll be honest, I wanted to see more of Steve's striptease. I wanted to see what he did. Because he'd whip that little dick out.
That was the disappointing thing. I thought we were at least going to get
I thought he was going to do the Urkel
at a scene in that. And he just immediately went into a speech and said, not a good call by the episode.
We didn't spend enough episode dealing with that environment and how these characters would interact in it. I think that's more where the humor was.
I don't know. It seems like Steve would really ham it up in that opportunity.
Anytime he gets to dance, he goes nuts.
Yeah.
He could even do his little fighting pose from our last episode. That seems like a dance.
I will bet he's rocking 14 inches right now. It's maybe the circumference of a dime, but it's a long, lanky, gross one, right?
Somebody say, geez. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I see what you did there.
I bet he tapes it down to go out.
He rips off his underwear and he goes, did I do that?
Back at the Winslow house, Laura and Harriet are talking about their mutual Club Buff experience, and Harriet says, look, I only went there because Rachel dragged me there, and honestly, your grandma fucking loves it. Laura says, I was just curious too, and Harriet says, but you're not an adult. Laura explains, I'm tired of being considered a goody two-shoes, which turns out to be the same dynamic Harriet had growing up with her friends, and Harriet tells a story that makes Laura feel better about how once she stalked various members of the Motown Revue tour and planted a smooch on old Smokey Robinson by force, which Laura does say, Mom, you're really cool. And Harriet says, well, yeah, but I got grounded for it, so that makes it bad. There is no real moral to this other than, I guess, try not to get grounded. If you don't get caught, it's fine. But you know what they're trying to do here. Harriet says, doing what's right and resisting temptation. That's what's cool.
There's your sitcom moment there. They love to do that.
Parent ass bullshit of just be good and follow the rules.
Made me want to dump an ice cream cone in her hair.
It was just like the end of the Growing Pains episode where Alan Thicke sits down with Mike and says hey, that's really, I admire you for not doing cocaine, for not doing the group toot. That's so cool, Mike, that you did that. That takes real courage. this exact thing. And it's so, at this point, we have seen enough sitcoms to see things like this, and you can't help but roll your eyes because it's so cliche and formulaic. Don't do this.
Yeah, just don't ever do it. And they should have known by now.
Be a real good soldier. That's what's hip.
There is another episode that I watched recently, too, where Laura has done something bad and preemptively grounds herself, which happens in Growing Pains also.
Yeah, very similar character types.
But Harriet and Laura understand. No one's really in the wrong here. And I do like this. The Winslows are constantly very forgiving in a way that they're not militant. Even when Harriet catches her, she's not actually mad.
No, I was expecting her to, after this heart-to-heart, and be like, but you're grounded for 3 months.
And
like
she doesn't at all.
Nope, no punishment at all.
And I really like that. And we go to credits now, and that's it for us talking about Family Matters. A show that dominated our childhood to some degree. We've pretty much talked about what we thought about it. It's your standard run-of-the-mill 90s sitcom with a couple of different things thrown in. I'm just mainly glad Carl is Reginald Vell Johnson and not Tim Allen. He's not an Al Bundy type. It's for a family show, it does actually give you some of the warmth you want from that.
It's a little fun at times too. And again, if they took Urkel out of it, I think I would like
or
the show.
just moderated how they used him instead of getting out of control about it because people responded so well. They're like, let's just go ahead and flip this thing on its head and make him the central point. If they wouldn't have done that, shown some restraint would have been a lot better.
Well, it's really funny. I did see a post on, there's r/sitcoms on Reddit, I believe. Somebody had brought up Family Matters, and another person said, like, Urkel's the only good thing about that show. The family's real boring.
I guess
I'm the opposite.
That's probably the mainstream.
And I think that was the
mainstream.
But yeah, I'd rather deal with the family. And I also I love Original Vell Johnson, but I think a lot of their interplay actually feels genuine. Some of the Winslow family stuff, like in this episode when Carl and Harriet were teasing each other, and Eddie too, like it all felt genuine enough. They felt like they liked one another, and that's not always the case in these kinds of sitcoms.
And it is good, like you talked about up top the very first episode, that we actually got a black family representation. That's a really good, something that wasn't done in sitcoms hardly at all, especially until this era.
Spencer and I were talking about when we were heading to the podcast about how we haven't really covered a black-centric show yet.
Because
in all these
almost
episodes.
Impossible.
And part of that is, we could maybe diversify a little bit, but a lot of what we pick because we watched it as kids, and most of the shows that existed were, 9 out of 10 characters are white. It's kind of wild to think back on. At least now, I would say things are headed in a better direction. We're seeing shows with a lot of different perspectives.
We are, and we're also seeing studios take advantage of it and do things for the sake of saying they did it.
Of course, there's always going to be the flip side of the coin, yeah.
But for the most part, the way I like to look at that is because people get mad. The only reason there was a gay character is because at least there was a gay character.
There was, and the other thing is it's allowing different sorts of creative people to make things now. Even if it's for the wrong reasons, they're getting to make things, and they can sometimes say what they want to. So, all in all, representation is good. What a bold stance for our podcast to take.
Only took 150 episodes to get there.
We're going to take a break and pat ourselves on the back, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the next show we're covering and get to the 2024 Boob2 Boys Hall of Fame ceremony.
Van, what day is it?
Saturday.
Brian, what day is it when people are listening to this podcast episode?
Could be any day of the week, but let's say Thursday.
Yeah, well, you're both wrong, because every day is a happy day.
Oh, wow. I mentioned that earlier.
Yes, you did. It was a Flintstones moment.
This is another show I've seen like every episode.
Sure. Well, okay. So you went with the sitcom right now, and it's a classic sitcom. I thought, what if we go even more classicer? I decided to use that word.
And it works.
Which isn't real. But I thought, let's go another big gun show. Let's bring it out.
This will be fun.
I actually have not seen this show ever.
Never.
I know
Same
everybody always references it, at least when we were growing up. I don't know how well it's aged, but it's like the sitcom everyone talks about. Everyone knows Fonzie, Henry Winkler, of course.
Potsy, Ralph Mel.
Right, yeah.
I don't know those, but I know Fonzie.
Howard and Marion Cunningham.
Ron Howard.
Yeah, Richie Cunningham.
These are like the TV show legends.
Scott Baio as Chachi.
Yeah,
Really?
it's gonna be a big deal.
Doesn't Joni love him? Huh.
Joni as Joni.
Are we jumping the shark? Are we doing something around there?
What?
That's where that
phrase
origin
comes
of the phrase. Because there's an
From Happy
episode where
Days.
Fonzie jumps a
I
shark.
did
The
not know that.
original episode that was, and it's used as an example of when a show is finally too stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I thought you were asking me if we were doing that now. I was like, I don't think so. I
Well,
think
did you
that's
not
a-
see the pool with the sharks out in the yard?
You guys,
must have missed
nobody talks about the funniest part of that episode, which is Fonzie jumps the shark, yes, but he does so while wearing swim trunks and a leather jacket and no shirt.
Wow.
Good.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested to see what I think of Fonzie after hearing about him for all these years
Hey.
and never watching any of the episodes. So I am going to read the synopsis of the show, even though I think most people know what it's about. But officially, we've got set in 1950s and 1960s Milwaukee. This series tells the story of the Cunningham family, as Brian mentioned. Father Howard, mother Marion, son Richie, and daughter Joni. Howard owns a hardware store, Howard's Hardware Emporium. Well, that's not really what it's called. It just reminded me of that moment in
And Touch by an Angel.
Yes.
Yeah.
While Marion stays at home, of course. Richie's best friends are Potsy and Ralph. Brian mentioned Potsy. Arthur Fonzie.
He's like a Nazi, but who hates pots.
Patsy Weber. And Ralph's last name is Malf. I didn't make that up.
Wow.
Oh.
So Arthur Fonzie Fonzarelli is the local bad boy,
Mhm.
riding a motorcycle and filling his days with fixing cars and dating girls. During the show's run, Richie leaves home to join the U.S. Army. That's a weird synopsis. It kind of tells what happens at the end. Okay, so I picked I just went with Googled what are the best episodes of Happy Days. And I got mostly suggestions kind of in the earlier years. So we're starting with season 3, episode 10, A Date with Fonzie. And this was November 11th, 1975. Synopsis of this: Fonzie sets up Richie on a double date with himself and 2 girls.
Hot.
And then this one's going to be real interesting. This is season 5, episode 22, My Favorite Orkin, which was February 28th, 1978.
Like the Bug Man?
Well, the planet, Mork from Mork.
I was going to say, I think I know what happens
We're
here.
actually getting a Robin Williams appearance in this episode.
But is Happy Days bizarre? Why does
I
an
don't know.
alien in it? What?
We're going to find out. I don't know.
Mork from Ork originated in Happy Days.
Yeah, and they did a spinoff for that character.
Was he an alien in Happy Days?
Uh-huh.
I'm guessing yes.
You know when they said jump the shark
Like,
changed
okay.
it changed it.
I get it now.
It's like Urkel make another Urkels. You're going to find this show interesting.
Okay.
Richie is visited by Mork from the planet Ork, who wants to take him back as a specimen of Earthlings.
Oh, look how hairy I am. Funny noises.
That's Happy Days. I am super interested to see whether or not I will actually enjoy this.
We're
I
going to
have
rock
no
around the
idea.
clock. I'm really excited for this. I got to tell you, back to back, this is just representing my childhood.
Yeah, I thought it's just considered such a, I don't know, significant moment in TV history. I thought we should probably tackle it at some point. And again,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know anything about it, so I'm interested to learn. And we haven't done a 70s show in a little while, so
I
mixing
think
it up.
that, from my memory, we're going to have a really good time in a way that, much like some of these older shows, Spencer, like that you've chosen, the Waltons and Father Knows Best, it is not any good. But this one is more spirited, I would say. It has more goofy choices in it. So we will be rocking around the clock with Happy Days the next couple of weeks. But for the rest of this episode, it is time for the 2024 Boob2 Boys Hall of Fame ceremony. Once again, the time has come. We opened the Boob2 Boys Hall of Fame last year, in 2023, in conjunction with our 100th episode. And now every April from henceforth now forward, we will elect 3 new candidates. Each of us, Van, Spencer, and myself, Brian, will present our 3 nominees from episodes we hosted. We will then fill out ballots selecting the 3 candidates out of the 9 presented we each find most worthy for Hall of Fame induction. First place votes are worth 6 points, second place votes 3, and third place votes are worth 2 points. We already talked about this. The 3 candidates last year we elected were Gior, Carr, and Birdman. The 3 with the most points this year will join them in the Hall of Fame. But that's not all, because we've covered movies now. We covered 3 of them last year, and we're adding a new wing to the Boob2 Boys Hall of Fame. That's right, the Motion Picture Men wing.
This is separate from the normal Boob2 Boys
But you
thing.
can, if you go to the building, the physical Boob2 Boys Hall of Fame,
It's there. The placard
it's down
is
the
there.
hall to the left.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. And only 1 candidate is going to get in for this particular category. So we'll each nominate 1 from the movie we hosted and then vote on who is most deserving. We will begin with our inaugural Motion Picture Men candidates, Spencer Hendricks. Who's first up?
Well, this is a lot of pressure. I'm
Well, your movie was The Room, of course.
Yeah,
One of the most famous bad movies ever.
And I'm going to be nominating the first person who I hope goes into our new wing of the Hall of Fame, which you guys are right, does look pretty nice. So I covered The Room. This was episodes 104 and 105 for us. In the Boob 2 Boys history, it aired May 24th, 2023 and May 31st, 2023, which is the way most people would say
I remember it like it was last year.
So I had a lot of choices, and really all of them were too obvious.
I think you had one choice, to be honest.
Well, and I probably made it. If we're being honest, like I think you guys will agree that the one I went with is the one to do, because everyone else we talked about too much, and then really there was only one star in the room. There's just one who took the scene and made it his in a way that none of the others did. That is why I would like to nominate Chris R.
I already wrote it down when you said there's one man and one. I was like, oh, this has to be Chris R.
Now, I have an example of why Chris R. belongs in the Motion Picture Men wing of the Hall of Fame, but I will briefly say it was played by Dan Gingigian.
Sure was.
Yep, and he doesn't, have a long list of credits to his name. It was The Room.
Senator? He ran for some office?
And he should have won.
He should have won.
It says here, grade A badass.
Let's get an idea of what kind of presence Chris R. had in the room.
5 minutes? You want 5 fucking minutes, eh? You know what? I haven't got 5 fucking minutes!
Ooh.
Chills.
So we know that Chris R. doesn't have 5 minutes, and I believe him. And when you hear him say that,
One of his character traits.
it's something that I would
6
buy.
minutes,
Doesn't
not
have
5.
He doesn't have 5 fucking minutes. And this is, of course, he just wants drug money from Denny, who is on the rooftop dribbling a basketball. Great scene. Chris R. makes it his. But he's got other elements. I don't want you to think that that's all he can do. Chris R. can't. He also has another line that really you buy, hook, line, and sinker.
Where's my fucking money, Denny?
Yeah, well, again, that's not all. He also has this gym.
Where's my fucking money, Denny?
And this one.
Where's my fucking money, Denny?
And lastly,
Where's my fucking money, Denny?
ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Chris R.
Ooh, that is going to be hard to top.
Ooh, boy.
He is a legend in our circles, both well before we did this podcast.
Absolutely.
It was
10
a
years.
hell of a recommendation from Spencer there.
Okay, I feel sheepish about this, but I'm ready. I'm ready to present another candidate for the Motion Picture Men wing of our Hall of Fame.
From, of course, the wonderful 2001
Yes,
movie.
2001's Turbulence 3 Heavy Metal, directed by Jorge Montesi, starring John Mann in the titular role. Not titular, he is very turbulent though, but as Slade Craven. We discussed this movie, film rather, in episodes 106 and 107 of our podcast. I will nominate Nick Watts, better known as Nick the Hacker, as portrayed by Craig Sheffer. There's no hacker more accomplished than Nick Watts, a true threat to undermine the impenetrable gridlock that rages against us, the proletariat. Perhaps more importantly, there's no bigger Slade Craven fan, as Nick has been a fan since a long time ago, like since Pucard or something. He possesses extreme confidence, the sort of confidence that might allow a middle-aged white man to wear a goatee and bandana and to engage in conversations like this one.
All right, there's the passenger manifest. Can you cross-check that with the Bureau's databank?
You need my help?
Yes, Miss FBI, I need your help.
My name is Kate Hayden, and I'm a Ms.
You sure are.
And they do fuck at the end.
Yeah.
They do fuck.
Gabrielle Anwar gets some Nick the Hacker.
And this is while they're handcuffed together like they're fucking Carl and Murtaugh while investigating a satanic plane takeover / cyber criminal bust. Nick the Hacker is my choice for Motion Picture Men Wing Hall of Fame.
Anytime I think of hacking or a hacking scene, Nick comes to mind.
Yeah, you put on your blue tinted glasses.
That's right. Well, the problem is I did not, in fact, cover Turbulence 3 Heavy Metal. I covered Champagne and Bullets / Road Revenge / Get Even, all one word. And that made my choice, my nominee, extremely difficult because I think there are at least 3 contenders, primarily 3 contenders, who could have taken that role.
There are 3 real frontliners.
Yeah, we had the hero, Rick Bodie. Of course, John DeHart played him. He made the movie. We had the sidekick, Chaos Gremlin, Wings Hauser. He's a little crazy. We also had an over-the-top villain in Normad, who is played by Charles... I'm blanking.
He's played by Will Smith.
Will Smith, that's it. William Smith, yeah. Famous character actor. Oh, 3 wonderful choices, but I had to waffle back and forth before ultimately making a decision. Now, to preference what my decision was, I would like to say that often in the past, we've come out and said what makes a bad movie good. It has to be heart. It has to be soul. You have to be putting your all into this movie. You can't make it sarcastically like a Sharknado or a Mega Python versus Gatoroid.
You must be honest in your intention.
You must really be trying to make art, sincere art. I think a great example of this comes from Spencer's movie, of course, The Room, Tommy Wiseau. He thought he was making a true romantic statement, and it certainly was not that. But the lesser-known contender, Champagne and Bullets, Road to Revenge, Get Even, has a man behind it who sat down one day and said, well, I've got enough money. I think I'm going to make me a movie, and it's going to be this. And he made himself the star of it. I'm, of course, talking about John DeHart, a.k.a. Rick Bodie, the hero of Champagne and Bullets. Let's take a listen.
When the world feels like it's giving in on us.
Did I mention he did the soundtrack as well?
In the deep blue sea.
You know what I would like to say about Rick Bodie is he is in his own personal Hall of Fame for sure. I mean, that guy is very self-important.
Only one in it.
Nominated himself, yeah. Well, what about this?
I got to get to you, but I can't decide, because everybody's doing the shimmy and the slide. Oh, you're on fire when I grab you by the hand. Your waist is moving with the rhythm of the band. My eyes swell up as you take me for a ride. Come on, pretty baby, let's do the shimmy slide.
Picture, dear listener, in your mind's eye, a white, frightened man, standing, his feet bolted to the ground, trying to shuffle a bit, singing his hit song, The Shimmy Slide, and you have my contender, Rick Bodie. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is ready for us to vote on. We have, in one corner, I already forgot.
Chris R.
Chris R. In the other corner, Nick the Hacker. And in the third corner, Rick Bodie.
You know what I say about your selection? Not a problem. Our votes have been cast, and it's time to find out who is entering the Motion Picture Men wing of the Hall of Fame. First, I'll explain. We only needed to vote for 2 candidates here, since there are only 3 and we can't vote for our own. So it's just 6 points for a first place vote and 2 for a second. Van, what are the who's in third, who's in second, who's in first?
The votes have been tabulated, drum roll, etc. We have a unanimous winner, as obviously we do. And the man going into the inaugural edition of the Motion Picture Wing of the Hall of Fame is, in fact, Chris R.
Chris R. He's in. He's pissed about that too, probably.
You know what he says?
Where's my fucking money, Denny?
That's what he always says about everything, and I think he's right here. We do need to pay him for this.
What about here?
Where's my fucking money, Denny?
Is he right there?
Calm down, Chris.
He doesn't know how.
He won with a total of 12 points. That means the 2 people voted him number 1.
Wow.
A.k.a. Brian and I.
That's a dominant performance.
Rick Bodie comes in second with 8 points. And then we've got Nick the Hacker, number 3 with 4. Congratulations to all of our contestants.
Yeah, you're all winners. You'll be going home with Wizards board game or whatever. What was that game from Legends of the Hidden Temple?
Yeah, what was that called? Magical Maze. Also, a free year supply of beefaroni.
This is a big honor for Chris R. Congratulations, Chris. You've made history, and now it's time to see which 3 members from our regular episodes of covering TV will get in and join Carr, Birdman, and Geehor.
That's right.
Okay, now just hearing them together like that really got me.
It really is kind of amazing.
I want to see them on the wall, those 3 together, and then Chris R. and to the side.
I need to make a page
pretty
and
soon,
do something.
Pretty soon, yeah.
I believe last year we gave all 3 of our nominations at once. We're going to rotate. We'll each give one, and then go through the other people.
We'll proceed in the same order. Spencer, would you like to present your first candidate?
I can do that. I can do that. And actually, I had a thing I was going to do here up top, and it was a little bit of sour grapes because last year's Hall of Fame for the Bootu boys was Van and Brian vote for each other's characters and put them in, and I don't get any representation.
That's right.
It's less effective now because you won. I just won.
And in dominant fashion.
Yeah, I absolutely crushed it. So it's not quite as effective, but I'll still complain about the 2023 Bootu boys Hall of Fame.
You're American, baby. That's what we do.
Right.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Let me tell you, this is going to be the calmest election there is this year here.
Oh, sure.
No one's ever involved in any kind of a voting process, and there's always someone at the end of it who is unhappy. That's always it has to be that way.
And it was you last year when you burst through the studio crying and screaming.
Birdman. But we did such a good job in 2 of the 3, and then we put Birdman in there.
He's a hero.
To be fair, he may have just flown in past us. We couldn't have stopped him if we wanted to.
He can come from up. The other guys couldn't.
We can only go side to side.
On that note, we didn't discuss if this was allowed or not. I'm going to start my nominations with a resubmission because I want to give him a second ballot attempt.
The Marino Brothers! 69 cents a gallon, Marino Brothers. They don't make wine. They don't even make good mouthwash. Is there something wrong? Everything is wrong. An exciting meal has been ruined by the presence of this liquid filth.
So as you guys can see from these clips, and it got close last year. This is
He was the runner-up last year.
This is Adrian Carsini, who was played by Donald Pleasance. That was from the episode of Columbo, Any Old Port in a Storm, which we covered all the way back in episode 6 of the Boob2 Boys when our audio was very bad. That was from May 26, 2021 is when we published that episode. So this was my second ever Boob2 Boys episode, and I have wanted to get Adrian Carsini in the Hall of Fame all the way since last year.
You've been stewing for a full year.
We've only done it twice, and I've wanted him in there, so I'm just going to try again this time.
This is like sometimes a candidate has a good career and it takes a few years.
Yeah.
They have to reappear on the ballot.
You're there for 10 years for
He
MLB.
stayed above the 75% threshold, so he can come back on.
He did, too.
He did, yeah.
Technically, he fits.
Well, there's this thing where you really can't vote for him the first time around unless it's a slam dunk. But
the fucking Veterans Committee, which is our cats, I guess. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, obviously, Carsini's a good choice, but I need to present my first choice here. You guys, a deadly specter of darkness existing between worlds to bestow the pain he felt in the mortal realm to all he might encounter? Or a misunderstood prankster with a bag of tricks up his sleeve, a sweet underground amusement park lair, and a coffin tunnel? We know him as Bloodstone, but his real name? Baron von Heckelhofer from the Nickelodeon show Doug, and we discussed him back in episode 109, and while he may look intimidating and be sort of a robed skull wearing a cloak of doom, I think his sweet interior world shines through.
Excuse me, sir. We're not leaving without Roger.
This way.
See, he's not unreasonable. Yes, he probably has been sort of existing for eons now, and he has killed, and he will kill again. But in the right circumstances, he plays fair, and when we talked about this guy, we all kind of fell in love.
I honestly am disappointed in myself that I haven't thought of Bloodstone more than I have. He was a delight. We fell in love with him. We might still be in love with him.
Yeah, we'll just have to see.
We'll see how the voting shakes out. All right, well, it's my turn for my first nominee. But before I do, I want to give you a little bit of ground rules here because I actually self-imposed a few rules. I said to myself that, first off, I only want to nominate one character per show. So even if we had 2 awesome characters in, I don't know, Andromeda, say the first episode I want to do the Balance of Judgment as number 1. And then the second one I wanted to do that weird frost witch that tries to freeze Kevin Sorbo. I couldn't do that. I can only pick one. It'd be the Balance of Judgment.
Sure.
It's 2 computers fucking. It was the only reasonable thing about that entire series. My other rule is that I could not nominate characters from shows in which I previously nominated someone.
Okay.
This disqualifies both Babylon 5 and Alf, because I nominated Alf, Babylon 5, and then, of course, Dawn Pierce, our YouTube
Which I believe
person.
I gave second place to. I really wanted Dawn Pierce in the Hall of Fame.
She was right there with Carsini and the runners-up, yes.
I wonder how she'd feel about that.
That rule is a little flimsy. I may not stick with it in future years, but it did allow me to narrow down
You're
the
just being
stuff.
transparent about your decision-making process.
Which is important. I also wanted to give you a few runners-up. These are the ones who didn't make the list, and we'll go through these quickly. These 2 were disqualified because a member of the previous show is now in the Hall of Fame. That is, of course, Babylon 5 with Gior. I kind of thought about Caliban, the weird ghost who's falling apart.
I do think about him a lot.
I thought about Lorien, the ancient first ones who was just, I know everything and I'm the best.
Little turd.
Yeah. I thought about Dugmar Kaida in Forged in Fire.
Oh, yeah.
Knife expert extraordinaire.
Will that keel?
Exactly. Brian mentioned this guy before we started recording, Jacob Kilmer of Baywatch, the serial killer who had a lot of weird things to say. Didn't go with him. And then finally, I almost went with Parantis Head. from the Mighty
Oh,
Morphin Power Rangers.
I would have
If I'd
voted for
covered
him.
that, I would have.
Yeah, I was close.
That's still all the things we threatened to get tattooed. That's the one I regret not getting tattooed the most.
Sure,
yes.
sure. Well, ultimately, they did not make the cut, and instead, my first cut is thus. It's one who's quickly found his way into our hearts. He's got every trait you could want in a villainous henchman. Cool armor, skill with weapons, sassy comebacks, and of course, his signature trait, an unmistakable, unmoving, dead-eyed dog face. That's right, I'm of course talking about Goldar, Rita Repulsa's and Lord Zed's right-hand dog boy, good boy, from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I don't remember if I pointed this out during our Power Rangers episodes, but in the lore of the show, Goldar eventually had a baby with Scorpina, who's a woman who can turn into a scorpion, and they name his baby Grifforzer Jr., because that's Goldar's name in Japan, Grifforzer. And also, they really love him. But let's hear what Goldar has to say about Rita Repulsa's traveling vehicle.
Yes, her traveling vehicle. Good.
And thus, if you vote for Goldar in the Hall of Fame, you yourself might get a good said about you.
You just got to remember to give him his food.
Will you rub his belly a little and he kicks his leg?
Wow. Well, we have a worthy first trio.
Yeah, Donald Pleasance, Baron von Heckelpfeffer.
Yeah, just call him Bloodstone.
Bloodstone and Goldar. All right.
Spencer, what else do you have for us?
Okay. I'm going to keep all these short and sweet because I was prepared to lose these. It's starting to look like this is going to be a really tight thing, actually. So I actually want to open this second nomination with the clips, and I'll explain it afterwards.
Thanks. I can't believe how nervous I am. I feel like I'm having a baby. Oh, not me, my wife. Not my wife. I don't have a wife. I kind of get a warm feeling anytime I see a blonde, abnormally tall child. Here's to the first of what I hope will be thousands and thousands of dates.
Dauber.
I thought I picked the only monster, but here we are.
I picked Bloodstone and I'm intimidated.
No, I kind of had to cheat for Dauber because he doesn't say much in the episodes of Coach we did, but
It's more of an imposing physical presence.
Yeah, and I found best of Dauber clips, so we're using those as the example. But it's, of course, Michael Dauber Dubinsky, who's played by, is it Bill Faber? I forgot to say, Fagerbacki?
Fagerbach?
Fagerbach?
I can't remember. He's Patrick.
Patrick from Homestar, from Squidge Bob.
He is a star, though.
SpongeBob. Yeah, so he was in Coach, and we did 2 episodes with him in it. Leonard Krailman, All-American, and Belly of the Beast were those 2. That'll take you guys back.
I don't remember that second one, but I remember that Rob Schneider was in that first one.
He was Leonard
I
Krailman,
just
All-American.
re-listened to these.
What happened in that second one?
For the recap project we're doing for YouTube.
Belly of the Beast is where he gets bitten by the dog.
It's the whole Luther spends
yeah.
the day in jail with his
That
dog.
depressing ass episode.
Those were episodes 67 and 68, which we did August 3rd, 2022 and August 10th, 2022. I was thinking of some of the people that we've actually talked about just on our own since the episodes came out. Dauber comes up quite a bit,
He
actually.
All the time.
I had, even though we didn't talk about him that much when we did the show because he's kind of drowned out by Craig T. Nelson, he was the one who came to mind. Ladies and gentlemen, Dauber.
Perfectly done. Well done. Well done. Wow. This is really fun, but do you guys ever have times when life's really been getting you down and you find like you're facing adverse decisions and you just don't know what sort of decision to make?
Correct.
Well, when times like this arise, when everything really starts going sideways, tie some chains around your ass and try to move a truck or something. The Power Team from Walker, Texas Ranger.
That's a good one.
We discussed these meaty boys back in episode 8.
Season 8.
My second ever show I hosted, The Principal was the episode title. It's like the best episode of TV that's ever been made. Convincing the voter base to cast their ballots for the Power Team, that shouldn't exactly be heavy lifting for me. Led by their walnut-headed leader, John Jacobs, these burly boys smushed and smashed and cronked and wonked their way through dozens of ice blocks, chains, bricks, people, past traumas, just to make sure kids don't do drugs. Then John Jacobs got divorced and they broke up. But pick up your Bibles and your protein powder, slam them plates in the gym, and ask yourself, when it's time to vote, are you going to be a dream maker? Or are you going to be a dream breaker?
Oof, that was a really good pitch.
I can't believe you told me you didn't have a clip when this exists. Same episode.
Look, it feels like overkill.
You didn't nominate the song Working Man?
I was just thinking that when you talked about the shimmy slide,
Uh-huh.
that song Wing Up the Hall of Fame, Working Man, shimmy slide.
We need to do that.
We're bringing that in next year.
Okay.
That'll be our edition next year.
I have another suggestion for a different wing or something that I will get into after all this.
All right. Well, I don't know if I can top the power team as they blow out
Not
toilets
physically.
and break some stuff. No, certainly not. But I will attempt to. And if you'll recall, last year for one of my nominees, I chose to think outside of the box a little bit. Again, I chose Dawn Pierce. She was a YouTube commenter. It's great stuff. She almost made it in. But this year I decided I wanted to do a very similar thing and select someone who isn't in a show we covered per se, but rather is a person that we bring up rather regularly.
Oh my God, I know what you're going to do.
So with that in mind, I ask you, gentlemen, do you still believe in magic?
This is going to be so fucking hard to vote.
Oh, man. Well, my second nominee is none other than the man who is voted Magician of the World by the World Magic Awards.
Here you are trying to give him more accolades.
The performer that has 5 world tours in over 50 countries. That's 5 continents, guys. A little legend who has received the prestigious Branson Entertainer of the Year award, Rick fucking Thomas.
What might he say if I said his show's mainly just for kids?
You've lost the magic within your
Now,
life.
are these illusions good enough for the big time for Las Vegas?
Oh, they've been in Las Vegas, my friend.
He's performed in Las Vegas.
A lot.
I was going to say, if we don't vote him in, he will hear this and write us a thing. He will complain.
Ultimately, if we vote him in, we got to tell him.
Well, look, I have 2 things here for you involving Rick Thomas to further my point here. First off, I watched his promo video. It's available on YouTube. It has been on there for 9 months. And I have to tell you that in those 9 months, it has less views than a full 15 of our YouTube videos.
Good for
which
us.
we don't promote. No,
And we've
bad
never,
for
we've
Rick
never
Thomas.
played in Las Vegas.
No, but through this video, I heard him speak the first time. I guess I'd never heard him talk.
No, we just had that made up voice for him.
Yeah, and that's how he talks.
I've
I don't even
decided
care
that's
how
his
he
real
really
voice.
talks.
Well, that's just it. My voice is far better, so let's hear how he talks.
Hi, I'm Rick Thomas. I look forward to presenting the most amazing show as I weave magic, music, comedy, and dance into an evening I promise the entire family will enjoy. In fact, I promise to blow you away.
There is a lot of doom going on.
Yeah, and that does blow me away a little bit.
But in honor of Rick Thomas's nomination here, I also have a Rick Thomas TripAdvisor review. Settle in, kids, because this is the longest fucking one I've ever done. So here we go. 2 stars. Oh, and for those who don't know, somehow this is your first time hearing about us talk about Rick Thomas. On a Yelp or TripAdvisor or whatever, someone will post a review of his show, and he will specifically himself go there and rebuke it.
He's one of these kinds of public figures.
Oh, yeah. So 2 stars. This is Joe L. He says, provocative. Very, very disappointed in this show. I would not call this a magic show. I would call it a burlesque show. I'm very sorry. Call me old-fashioned, but this is not a family show. I wish it had more magic and less dancing.
This is shocking, because most of the other reviews make him sound like too G-rated.
Right. Well, Rick Thomas heard that. Oh, by the way, the final little bit of Joe's review here is so sad, an exclamation point. Rick Thomas decided, I'm going to write 2 or 3 paragraphs about this. He says, it saddens me that someone can write something so far from the truth. It is an absolute pleasure to write just a bit about my life's history, so this individual may understand that just a little variety makes the show enjoyable for everyone, except him. There are 2 ballroom dance numbers in the show that run just over 1 minute each in a 120-minute show. These dance numbers are massively more conservative than Dancing with the Stars, I might add. There is also a little dancing within the illusions to create a full production. There is also more magic in this show than any magical production across the world. Regarding the dancing, my sister and I competed in ballroom dancing throughout our youth and teens.
That is not surprising.
Taught to us by our grandmother. We gratefully and humbly became ballroom dancing champions. My parents taught ballroom dancing as well. In fact, my mother still teaches 4,000 students a week with the famed Bobby Burgess from the Lawrence Welk Show. Not only do they teach high school students how to dance, they teach them etiquette towards one and another. I was raised with these same ethics. A burlesque show. Ridiculous!
I bet the person who wrote this is like, you know what? Changed my mind.
I was already going to say, I'm on Rick Thomas's side here.
You're with him? Okay.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine to put that
I mean,
in the magic
always.
show.
I have a shirt that says, I'm with Rick Thomas.
WWRTD. More magic? Motorcycles appear and vanish. I and my cast fly in the air like no other magic production worldwide, and the comedy magic can bring you to tears. I cause a helicopter to appear and then place someone from the audience in that helicopter.
We gotta go.
And I make both that person and the helicopter vanish.
Well, that happened to Amelia Earhart, basically, too.
There is more magic jammed into this 2-hour show than you can possibly imagine. There are 150 shows in Branson, and I have just been nominated for Entertainer of the Year. So your comments, sir, so sad.
Oh, he got the call back to what the comment said.
Yeah, Rick Thomas.
Well, I bet he fist pumped in the air at his laptop whenever he finished writing that after the so sad at the end.
It's 2 a.m. and he's just on a show and he got home and showered and he's alone in a dark room.
Cracked open a
furiously typing.
Ginger ale, probably.
I bet he drinks. I bet he drinks a lot.
Orange juice.
All right, that's the first of 2 rounds. We're on to our final nominations here.
Okay, Spencer. You've so far nominated Adrian Carcini and Dauber.
I wish I would make you sick. Oh, but that's why he's not here. Oh, sure. That's it. It's early. He'll be here easy by lunchtime. Do you like the name Cookie? Merry Christmas, Aunt Neva. And I don't hate you anymore. I love you.
Kathy, she is the only person we have covered who is a barrel of laughs and a barrel.
She is bulldozing her way into the studio.
A real doorstop.
We didn't get many moments with Kathy in our episodes that we did. Of course, Father Knows Best was episodes 53 and 54.
And another one, like 120.
The Christmas one, yeah, which is, of course, one of those that came from the Christmas episode clip that we covered. The 2 original ones I did were April 26th, 2022 and May 5th, 2022. And a while ago in Boob 2 Boys lore. Kathy Anderson was played by Lauren Chapin. In the 2 episodes we did, of course, Spaghetti for Margaret and The Weaker Sex. She may not have had too many scenes because she's just a little girl, but as Van has alluded to many times, she's not little in spirit or in physical force.
She's stout.
And she made the most out of that screen time.
She did.
She did, and we talk about her a lot for someone who's barely in the show.
She comes up quite a bit.
Weird that Father Knows Best decided to title an episode The Weaker Sex, implying it's women when Kathy's
when
right
you've
there.
got Kathy right there proving
she
that's
could
not true.
Robert Young right out of the room.
Crank that ice cream, man.
I don't want to go on too much further. Kathy speaks for herself.
She does.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kathy Anderson.
Oof. I love Kathy. I wasn't thinking of her, and that was a very pleasant surprise. Okay. Is there a performer that you ever you smile just thinking about him?
Rick Thomas.
Well, I mean, that is true.
So, yes.
All right. Well, how about this one? Richard Karn. Yeah, it's Richard Karn. He's an everyman. He found his way into our hearts by insulting Tim Allen. We also, in our free time, we saw him seduce, without using words, a beautiful horsewoman in the movie, Horses for God 9, Saddled with Guilt. He's soft. He's warm. He can fix a sink. He can fix a toilet.
Got a big old dick.
He's got a huge hog. And on top of that, a twinkle in his eye you can't deny. And if you see Richard Karn, you can see the twinkle, and you just want to, every bit as much as Reginald Vell Johnson, you want to call him Dad.
Tim Allen sat around and said, "Hey, Al, I think I'm going to be nominated for the Boob Boys Hall of Fame." And Richard Karn, you know what he said? He said, "I don't think so, Tim."
That is basically
his whole
vibe.
Yeah, his entire part of the show. I don't think so, Tim.
Here's an example of that.
Today, we hung a storm door on an existing wood frame. Now, the important thing about putting a door in is hanging it, because if it's not hung well, you got a problem, right, Al?
Speak for yourself, Tim.
Big dick.
Big dick Karn.
Got a fucking alligator tail hanging between his legs. It even tapers off at the end like that.
And it's scaled.
Richard Karn, and I would like to be clear, I mean Richard Karn.
Not Al. Richard Karn.
Richard Karn.
Okay.
I call him the Karn dog.
My third and final nomination for the Boob Boys Hall of Fame this year is also my number 1 nomination. This was the no doubter of my people. I knew I wanted to nominate this person. It is a man who has taken our hearts, as well as our, as Hall of Famer Carr might say, preconceived notions of what's right and what's wrong, and turn them inside out. He's a man who felt he was wronged in life, as we often feel, despite nothing but success in his career. He's a man who took that pain of being wronged and chose to use it in a very convoluted yet dastardly plot of revenge. A man who knew what the people wanted and gave it to him. His hit album went gold in a week. It was 20 with a bullet on Monday. By Friday, he'd sold 1 million copies. He's a man who cracks the whip while you take the trip. He's a man who's too hip to deal with any cliches about two wrongs. A man who calls himself the Pied Piper. I'm talking Hamlin Rule of Wonder Woman, my friends. Now, I really struggled with this one. Not because I didn't want to nominate Hamlin Rule, but because I also wanted to nominate Gargantua.
Oh, yeah, that's and you had your own little rule about that. So the problem with this is once you play that flute, we have to vote for him.
My initial inclination, though, was to go with Gargantua over Hamlin Rule. But after reviewing all the clips and everything, I just decided Hamlin had the edge over the gorilla who was programmed by a bunch of Nazis.
I dig it, Daddy-O.
So to finalize Hamlin as my nomination, I feel there's nothing better to do than to listen to this clip of him rambling incoherently.
Well, hey, I'm Hamlin Rule, and I'm too hip to deal with any cliches about two wrongs. I mean, I can't. It's not cool. I mean, what are you? What am I? Two bummers, two bring downs, two bad scenes. Don't make it cool. Two bad scenes. Just make a fool. It's not bad. Where's that old guitar of mine?
That's right, Hamlin Rule, the Pied Piper himself.
Oh boy, this is a real heavy hitter lineup.
Yeah, let's go through this. We've got Donald Pleasance, Baron von Heckelhofer, aka Bloodstone, Goldar, Dauber, the Power Team, Rick Thomas the Magician, Kathy from Father Knows Best, Richard Karn, and of course, Hamlin Rule. Those are your choices, gentlemen.
We can only pick 3 of these 9.
Yep.
We want to do it in order. It's 6 points for first, 3 for second, 2 for third, and we can't vote for the ones that we presented. And let's go vote, and we'll come back.
Well, before we vote, I have one last piece of advice for you guys.
What is it?
I think Hamlin Rule has to be first place.
This is weird. I felt like so torn before, but now I resolutely feel it's Hamlin Rule, so much so that I'm saying it out loud to you guys. I'm not even writing it down. Let's just put him in 3 times.
You guys want to go put on some like really tight black outfits and rob some places?
Is that Eve Plum?
I was thinking about doing some doorknob evaporation. We are back. The results have been tabulated. They're in, and we're about to find out the 3 newest members of the Boob2 Boys Hall of Fame. Van, let us know.
Gentlemen, this was a hard-fought battle by all of our top competitors, and not so hard-fought by the low competitors because they didn't get any points. And they suck.
You got to have some in there that are just kind of thickening the group.
Like a nice cornstarch
And this
mixture.
is a strong class. Maybe some other years, they stand a better chance.
It is a very strong class, but there are 3 clear winners. There weren't any shenanigans like there were the first time.
Birdman.
The number 1 winner, the person who is immediately going into the Hall of Fame, this is the Gior of last year, is a man.
Also the bravest of his race.
Gior. Oh, no, not now.
It depends if you consider magicians to be a race. Because our number 1 winner is, of course, Rick Thomas, the magician.
He'd be so happy about this.
He'd be thrilled. Number 1 nomination. He got 9 points. It's a lot of points for Rick Thomas. Congratulations to Rick Thomas. It's the only real award you've ever won. Moving on into our number 2.
He's not going to like that one bit.
Well, we're going to get another 1-star thing.
Excuse me, podcast.
Oh, man, yeah.
Clearly.
He'll be on the other end of the review on our podcast review page.
Too risque.
At least then he would have had to have listened to the podcast flavor review.
Can we give responses on Apple Podcasts?
No, sadly.
I didn't think so.
Number 2 here, another clear winner. This person had 8 points. Let's just do this and reveal it.
Now, for the rest of you, you can hang out if you want to. Anything you want, just ask. And I mean anything. Because this is where it's at. And if that's not enough, I'll see you all get an autograph picture, okay? Follow me.
It worked! The flute music has catapulted Hamlin Rule, a.k.a. Martin Mull of the Wonder Woman episode, The Pied Piper, as our second Hall of Fame entrant.
I think he willed as that end up happening for sure. Yeah, that really wasn't you nominating him. He worked through your vessel.
Well, and I don't think you guys voted for him intentionally. It just happened.
I don't remember voting for him.
It's weird. I've got this slip here with all the names. Who won. It just says Hamlin Rule, Hamlin Rule, Hamlin Rule.
Huh.
We actually got 11 points just from that.
Whoa, good for him. Let's cancel the rest of this.
Our final entrant into the Boob2 Boys Hall of Fame comes in with 6 points. And boy, does she come in hard.
Couple of second place votes here.
Look over there. Do you see a toddler-sized hole in the wall? You do, because it's Kathy from Father Knows Best.
And that's just one first place vote.
One first place
Forcing
vote.
her way. Oh, okay. I was thinking it's a couple of...
No, it was one first
Somebody
place.
really wanted Kathy in the Hall of Fame.
It's the guy talking right this second. I just decided Kathy, she did it for me, man.
And these are very worthy. Rick Thomas, Hamlin Rule, and Kathy.
We know that twice now Donald Pleasance just robbed. Absolutely robbed.
He did get points this round. I'll reveal the rest of the scoring here. He finished in last place, tied for last with Richard Karn.
He was actually going down. It's one of those things where slowly the percentage is dropping for his candidacy.
He might get some momentum. You don't know. Yeah, he tied with 2 points with Richard Karn for dead last.
Sure.
Let's go the other way here. After Kathy's 6 points, we had 2 people with 3s, and that would be Dauber, Big Dauber. He got 3 points, and then the power team also managed to muscle up 3
Dauber
points.
could be on the power team.
Yeah, that's kind of one and the same right there.
Couple of big, thick men, and that's it for the scoring. They all got the points. Goldar, Bloodstone did not get any. Fuck them. Fuck them.
Yeah,
and their dog face
our
and
weirdest
their ghostness.
like creatures didn't get any points.
But that's
well,
okay.
I guess, Rick Thomas.
He's a creature unto himself.
Wow. Another huge year in Boob 2 Boys Hall of Fame voting. Another class inducted. This was a success. We'll be doing this again next April. Spencer, you mentioned earlier you had something you might want to add to the Hall of Fame next year.
Just a thought. We may decide that we can't quite make this work, but it occurred to me when I was thinking of some of the shows we've done. We talk right now about the ones we listen to the shows, we think about the episodes, we're like, wow, those characters are iconic for Boob 2 Boys, and I just love thinking about them.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some shows where there's some people in it we don't like thinking about at all. So I wanted to submit some of these ironically, like as a joke, and I thought, well, what if we did like a Hall of Shame sort of thing, where we had a wing and maybe we do it like the movies where it's just one a year, we don't need to do a full round of it, or maybe each one of us does a round like we did the movies. So, for instance, anyone on 90 Day Fiancé.
Yeah.
I was thinking.
So you're saying people you hate, not just necessarily people you just forget about.
No. The ones
These
that
are
we
bad
wanted to,
ones.
like Tim Allen, for instance. And yeah, that would be a thing where we would use
the same passion we had for Carr, we have
in the other direction.
These.
Okay.
I give you the example that I think should be the head of that class, and I can see his stupid head right now as Asuelu.
I knew it. I knew it was going to be
hate
pineapple
fucking
head.
Asuelu. And I was thinking how much it would be nice to have him in a villain version of our Hall of
I'd love
Fame.
to make Tim Allen a villain too.
Good idea.
It's just something that I thought we would ruminate over the next year.
I like it.
Next couple of years, we'll have like a couple different wings.
We got one on each wall. Like,
yeah.
there's the movies. We're going to have to figure out how the songs work. We got the shame and then the main one.
It's going to be a big event. But until then, and until next week, when we talk about Happy Days, which I'm really excited to do, you can find us on YouTube. Fans uploading the back catalog there. Go to patreon.com/Bootu Inc.
Is that Boot You?
It is.
Okay.
And then an INC. And if you go there, it's free, or you can pay us. We'd love it if you did. But we've got a lot of cool stuff up on there right now.
Do you know what it means if you won't go to patreon.com/Bootu Inc?
Loser, put Ellen forehead to that person.
You fucking stink.
Yeah, that is true.
There was a whole jingle. One of us came up with that.
I don't remember, but yes.
Yeah.
You can also find Spencer on Goodreads. I'm at Loud Guitar Brian.
You can find me on Bad Reads.
Golden Hat Mick. You can find Van at Bad Reads. And you can find him petting his cats. You can find all of us doing that.
You can also go to Blue Sky, and we're all in Blue Sky now, too.
Yeah, Capacity Bootu Inc. That's what I am.
Yeah, that's
Loud
exciting.
Guitar Brian. I bet everybody's surprised.
Golden Hat
Spencer.
Mick?
Yep.
There it is.
Yeah, this will force us to make actual stuff go on there, maybe. That's fun. Yeah, so that's where you can find us. There's probably more places, too.
Instagram, Pinterest, that one's made up.
Yeah, you can...
Does that still exist?
Yeah.
You can, like recipes
Friendster, Juno, the browser.
LinkedIn.
Thanga.
Yeah, you can
Wait, is
really...
that the blocks
Like
you
the
pull
little-
one out?
The
and
little
falls?
mini blog thing from like 2006.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking of Jenga.
Yeah, it's not that.
Do you remember the Jenga commercial when we were kids where there's a bunch of like people running around in warehouses going, Jenga, Jenga. And
yeah,
then
which
they
I
play
worked in a
Jenga.
warehouse and no one does that. And that's the whole reason I took that job.
I'm too shaky. I don't like Jenga.
I thought you were going to start singing I'm Too Sexy, but with I'm Too Shaky.
I'm too shaky for my Jenga.
We have talked about Rico Suave, and that's pretty close to the same thing. Right said Fred. Yeah, so we'll be back, but until now, Steve, get out of my house.